Yeah.
Yes, you'll
Thank
have
you.
that. Yeah, so your piece is
So it's a process we constantly have to work on. And I
yes,
like what you say, that it depends also upon people being able to say what they need. So it's on the one hand being able to express what we need, and on the other hand to be able to perceive what other people need.
yes. And I
So,
believe that we need peace literacy training, just as we now have training for reading and math, and we assume that everyone has to have it. We now need to have peace literacy training for everyone to cope with the enormous challenges that the human race is dealing with. And I draw upon the work of Paul Chappell. I'm going to put his website here, who was in the army. And he is doing work in, he has a peace literacy curriculum that is fantastic. That's free. And he's written 6 books. He's only 37. One book took 10 years. His books are Will War Ever End? The End of War, Waging Peace, The Peaceful Warrior, The Peaceful Revolution, The Cosmic Ocean. He's teaching the social emotional skills that are underneath recognizing that aggression is a form of distress, and listening to seeking what the distress is, and being respectful, remaining calm, teaching us how to do those things and de-escalate. And I'm very supported by the learning about the neurobiology of our reactions, that we go into our creature brain, reptile brain, when we hear a story that we're being attacked, and we have 0.04 seconds to break that. I mean, it's hard. It's really hard to not react back with our defensive reptile brain. And it's really hard to not feel deeply, painfully wounded when we're excluded because of our mammal brain, our limbic brain. And that to use our neocortex and prefrontal cortex is very hard and requires safety, requires feeling safe. And I'm still working on all this, and we teach what we need to learn, and I don't do conflict well as I would like. And so I come at this in a very humble way.
yeah. This is a lovely quote also from Greg Randon, was it? Peace is conflict done well.
Yes, I think his name is Craig.
That's a really good quote.
Maybe it's Brandon Craig. Hold on, if you wait 1 second, I'll get his name, because it's a wonderful quote that really helped me.
Yeah.
I think maybe it's Brandon. I have incorporated it into many of my singing trees. And young people love hearing it. Okay, it's Brandon Williams Craig.
Okay. Thank you.
And I can show one of my singing trees that was built around this, if you would like to see.
Yes, definitely.
Yes.
So it's the lemon cherry singing tree, and it was created by 8 to 14-year-olds in South San Francisco. They were all different races and so different ages. And we did it in a month. And here we go. And it was, so as part of the creation of this, we would meet in circle every morning and use the process of everybody checking in with how they were feeling, what their mood was, so that people can get used to knowing that their feelings are data and information to give each other. And this is 8 feet by 8 feet. And this part is a cherry tree. And this part is a, can you see my cursor moving?
Yes.
This part is a lemon tree. And we made a list of the things that were breaking the kids' hearts. And they chose peace as the main driving issue. And then we also included other things, especially the animals that are being affected by global warming. And we have a UFO here and a black hole, and this is a collaboration of about 150 kids, and then some other.
This is really beautiful.
Isn't it amazing?
It's really, really beautiful. I just have the kind of intuition to ask you. I don't know. I mean, obviously, I haven't talked to the other two about this, but maybe if we would be able to kind of put this into our report, or be able to also show it, in our presentation. I mean, like if we do so, obviously we be in touch, and obviously we give you the credit.
Sure.
Obviously, but because I just love this, because the lemon tree and the cherry tree are holding hands, and their arms are kind of forming a heart, and in there is this wonderful quote, and then there are, like on the kind of the surface of the earth, those animals, and I mean, it's just beautiful.
Yeah.
I just kind of think, well, this would be just so wonderful to kind of include in our presentation, or maybe also in our report that we have to hand in.
Please, yes,
it's
because
lovely.
The Dalai Lama says a picture isn't worth 1,000 words, it's worth 1,000,000 words. And it's very hard, we're very visual creatures, and it's hard for people to imagine what happens when people make collective imagery together, because we just don't do it hardly ever. And so
yes, this is really, really beautiful. It's really special. So is this actually on the internet, Lori?
Yes, I'm gonna now I'm gonna go to my website, and then you'll get to see what's on there. So I'll help you navigate things a little bit on there. Can you still see can you see my website now?
No, I just see a white.
So I have to stop the share and go back and do it again. Okay, here we go. Okay, now can you see it?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is, if you go to Murals, so the video that's on here is 2 years worth of singing trees, and it has information about peace building. So that's what this this video is. It's on the cover.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you click on Murals, every year has the murals that were made that year. And so you can see that in 2019 there was this one, and then if you click on that, it will take you to all the murals that were made in that year.
Okay.
And this one, the Mangrove Singing Tree of Love, was made in Parkland, Florida, where there was a mass shooting the year before. And the middle school used the singing tree process to help them grieve the anniversary. So this was done on the anniversary of the shooting, and the shooter had gone to that school.
Okay.
And the teachers had been very concerned. And this was led by the Gay Straight Alliance of that school. So it was a way to give a visibility and attention to the Gay Straight Alliance.
Okay.
And then they came up with the design, and it's a collaborative process to come up with a group design, which is so thrilling because we get so many more ideas than if we were just working by ourselves. And then about 300 students made the leaves and birds, and we glued this to the wall, the leaves and birds.
This is also really beautiful.
So the concept of including beauty as part of the way that you lobby for peace is very important, to make peace big, loud, and beautiful, because war is big, loud, and ugly. And and this one down here in 2014 was made by the students in Sarajevo, and I think I shared that that video with you.
Yes.
Yeah, of the students in
Yeah.
Sarajevo. And they didn't want to put any continents on the earth. They only wanted to put musical notes, which was so moving to me.
Yes.
So,
so you just,
yes, go ahead.
No, you just said something about what happens when people come together to do a project like that. But I can't quite remember. But it was something like important for us.
Yes.
What you said. What happens when people come together and do something like that?
Well, we create something that is much bigger than we could have ever imagined. That's bigger and more powerful.
Yeah.
And and this is the mural that I just finished that I know you got to see, Berta.
Mm-hmm.
Am I saying your name right?
Yes. Yes, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is one that took 11 months.
Yes.
And we use concepts of restorative justice. So every meeting we began in circle with objects that have meaning to the participants. And everybody gets to check in of what they're feeling. And we celebrate what's new and good and what's upsetting. And then we go to work and we do all the work and play on the mural. And then we close by checking in to where everybody's heart is. So by building community, you prevent violence, where everybody is included and honored. So this is the Restorative Justice Singing Tree, designed by high school students. So yeah, by making a forest of images that demonstrate collaboration is not only normal, but it is gorgeous. We hope to add to the possibility of peace.
Yes. So what I understand what you just said about building community, like the concept with which you're working, like that, first of all, I imagine the children and youth arrive where you're working at the singing tree, and they first can share what's on their heart and what's important to them, what has happened, maybe during the night or the night before, or whatever comes to the heart and mind to say. And then at the end, you close with a similar kind of ritual, so to speak, that they can say where their heart is at. And through that, everybody becomes particular, so to speak, or becomes known.
Mm-hmm.
It's not foreign anymore,
Right.
but just opens him or herself, makes herself known and is heard. And through that, you build community, and that furthers peace. So that basically people are not foreign any longer, but people become, so to speak, concrete. It's
Yes.
not like some kind of what's the English word, like a some unconcrete kind of person, or some general kind of category of people, but it's actually real people.
Right. And also the element is very important that we create something together. So we're not just talking.
Yes.
Just talking is not enough. It is.
That also builds community, doing something together.
Absolutely.
Yes. Okay.
Yes. And I mentioned
Creating something.
I mentioned that story of the Palestinians and Israelis who were stuck in peace talks for 2 years until somebody's truck broke down. And they went out and they fixed the truck together. And then they could do the talks. Then they were able to make progress.
Yeah.
So having a shared purpose that's bigger than yourself. And one of the things the Singing Tree Project does is it connects people to other peace builders around the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to ask the next question.
Yeah.
What does the picture of the Earth as seen from the moon mean to you? How has it inspired you in your work?
Oh, that's a wonderful question. And I think that all the people that were born after the moon landing, where that picture was taken, come in with a consciousness that we are one family on the earth. There may be forces that work against that, but once you see the earth suspended in space, how can you not understand that we are here together on this planet? And it's one planet that has a life with billions of miles of no life around us that we know of, how rare and precious it is. So I include the image of the earth in space in all the singing trees because I think it's so fundamentally important to our consciousness now. And as a species, if we're going to survive, we have to do it from the point of view of our planet, as a planet, not just as a town or a country, but as a planet.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah. Great question.
Okay, then I will ask next question. What do you mean when you speak about female leadership, and why is it so important in your understanding?
Female, I'm going to call it feminine leadership, and it's principles of femininity that I believe we all have femininity and masculinity within us. We were all made by a sperm and an egg. So we're 50-50. And how we express things depends on who we are. And the feminine leadership focuses on children. It puts children first. Women's bodies, since the time we're 13, get ready to bring a child into the world. And it doesn't matter if you actually have a child or not, but we have a monthly experience of a cycle that we do not control, that nature controls, to give us the knowledge that children are core to the well-being of the human family. And knowing that we're part of nature, that we have these cycles that we don't control, and that when we give birth, we don't control that, is a way of understanding that we are part of nature. We're not that separate, superior, I'm going to take control of it and move it around wherever I want with no consequences. And women also have the experience of when they have sex, they can get pregnant. There are consequences. And long-term thinking is very built into decisions that come from a feminine way of thinking. So keeping in mind the 7 generations, keeping in mind that we're part of nature, keeping in mind that we live in a deeply cooperative ecosystem, that all the leaves of a tree work for the whole tree, all the trees in the forest work for the whole forest. When there's a part of the forest that is low on resources, the rest of the forest sends nitrogen or sends minerals to that part that is low on resources. So understanding that life cannot exist if it isn't fundamentally cooperative, and that the competition exists within the context of this cooperation, and always furthers the cooperation. It hones skills. It keeps the sick and the infirm out of the population. It is not an end in itself. And feminine leadership puts relationships first, and the goals are secondary in terms of if it destroys the relationship, it's not worth the goal. And feminine leadership emulates life and focuses on life. And and masculine leadership can be a tremendous protector of life. And as I said, we all have the warrior within us. We all have the nurturer within us. We have it right now on our planet. Every country's resources, except for Costa Rica, goes into the military and not into the children. And masculine leadership sorts for power, and feminine leadership sorts for relationship. We have to do a better job, we who believe in feminine leadership, of making the relationship with the children the priority. And if you make the relationship with the children the priority, and you make it so that every child is safe and loved, you automatically take care of the elders, because the elders have a very important role to help the children feel safe and loved. And we're only as happy as our unhappiest child. We're only as happy as our unhappiest parent. And so the feminine leadership that's needed today is to put the well-being above the growth of the economy, redefining what the economy is. The word economy means to make home. And we have a business enterprise that takes people away from home. And COVID has been so interesting because the first time since the Industrial Revolution 150 years ago, people have been at home with their families instead of separated. And we don't know how to do it very well, but it's a very interesting time. And it's very interesting that the Renaissance grew out of the bubonic plague. And I am praying that this worldwide pandemic that is telling us if you don't pay attention, you will die, you will get sick, that it will shake things up, and we can go to a regenerative democracy which we've never had in the world. We've never had a totally inclusive, respectful democracy yet, and certainly not in my country, where all cultures and races and sexes and sexual orientations are respected, and where the earth is respected. And we use the beautiful processes of the earth to generate food without poisons and without pesticides and fertilizers that are killing the soil. We know how to live like nature, and it's all part of building peace. If we're not at peace with nature's cycles, we're not going to be at peace. And I'm reminded of this amazing man. This is what happens when you make the goal more important than the means of getting there. This was a German Jewish scientist whose name I can't remember. I think his first name was Fritz. And he invented the fertilizer, the nitrogen fertilizer, that allows for crops to produce like 3 times more than they were before. And he came out of World War I when Germany was starving, and he was accepted into the academy, and he was so proud to be a Jewish person who was accepted by German society. And he done this great invention, and then World War II came. And no, I think it was World War I. I have my times wrong. World War I came, and he invented using mustard gas to kill people, because he wanted to serve his country. And he invented the first chemical warfare and tried it successfully on many Belgian soldiers, and came home, and his wife said, "How could you do this?" And she shot herself. And he was being feted by the German commandants, and she went to the garden and shot herself while they were there. And he went on to still try to be part of the German society to show how loyal he was. And when Hitler came to power, they wouldn't let any Jews be in his department. But he was still allowed to stay. But he finally left and said, I can't handle this anymore. And he went to England. And he never really had a country. And his invention of a pesticide that had no smell to it was used to gas the Jews in the chambers. And it is such a powerful story to me of how important it is to keep asking, is what I am doing, if it's protecting life, then it's not going to kill life. And it's a very, it's complicated, but perhaps it's very simple.
It's just really touching what you're saying. I just also wanted to share like what Gandhi said. He talked about the unity of means and end. So if we take care of the means, then the end will take care of itself. So if we take care that the means are good, and don't what's the English word? So don't basically use the means as instruments just only just to reach our ends.
Yeah.
Then there will be peace, and it will be good.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that answered your questions about feminine leadership, but I'd love to hear if what I said makes you think of anything about feminine and masculine leadership.
Yes.
I mean, for me, it definitely answered the question. So thank you.
Yes, also for me. Thank you.
And how about for you, Joshua?
Yeah, sure. Also, yeah.
Okay, then we continue to the next question. I think it's a little cut. It seems for me like a cut because I'm also touched from what you said. Yes, but I think I will continue. It's about structural and cultural violence because we work with the concept of Johann Galtung in our project. And so I would like to ask you, if we consider structural and cultural violence, in which way can the Singing Tree project help to transform these collective social forms of violence?
Can you say the very beginning of what you said? I didn't quite understand. About
we consider,
structural. Okay.
Yeah, it's about structural and cultural violence.
Cultural. Okay.
Cultural. Yes,
Yeah.
sorry.
No problem. Yeah.
Okay.
Can you ask
Okay.
the question one more time, please?
Sure. If we consider structural and cultural violence, in which way can the Singing Tree project help to transform these forms of violence?
Again, we move in the direction of the images we create, and we move in the direction of the stories that we tell. And the Singing Tree tells the story that we are alone together in space. Maybe there are other beings. I haven't met them yet. I'm open. But we do know that life is rare and precious. So changing the story from one that says you're all alone and you have to get yours at the expense of everybody else, versus a story of we are here together and we can create beauty together, and we can make a culture that says yes to every voice mattering, is a different approach than the cultural violence that says my group is better than your group, and the structural violence that puts our energy into weapons. And the Singing Tree is based on listening to a child's vision. And again, returning to, is this going to be good for the children? And sharing the story over and over that we are one family and the family is filled with diversity. Again, if we model nature, nature never has a monocrop. Nature never, you never go into a forest and there's only one thing growing. There's always many different things growing together. And so nature loves diversity, and the Singing Tree is modeled on that too. So it's my hope to add to a culture of peace that is joyous and imaginative, and to use other art forms, to use music and dance and spoken word and storytelling, and we're moving towards that, combining those more with the Singing Tree. And I hope that you put this wonderful research that you're doing into a form that people can easily access, into an article or into video, because the work that you're doing is very important to get out to many people. We need to flood the airwaves with stories of possibility and peace, because it's flooded so much with toxic poison.
Yes.
Yes.
Poison. Toxic already means poison. So
Yes, we will actually write a paper. So we're not just only going to do the report on our research, but we're also planning to write a paper to be published. But I'm afraid that that'll be in German.
Yeah.
So
Well,
we haven't really yet now haven't really planned to translate it.
yes, yes.
Or have it translated. So yeah. Yeah, but and I know, I mean, especially just talking to you now, it is just I just feel kind of yeah, the intensity of it, you know, it's kind of coming together, the words you're saying and the pictures you're showing, and it's yeah, it's beautiful. So I'm just thinking of a question that we actually don't have on our sheet here, but do you know, like John Bowlby and Mary Ainsworth, who were talking about this theory about the connection between a mother and a baby, or a mother and a child, and if that basically is disrupted, then that is very bad for the baby, because it's not securely bound to the mother, or to whoever is the significant person caring.
Yeah.
So do you think that like as, like, you know, lots of children maybe are not safely, would you say safely bound, is that the right term in English? Or safely
Attached is
yeah, attachment,
yeah,
that's right.
attachment, yeah.
Yes, that's right. So, you know, because like lots of children are not safely attached to a significant person, that also has something to do with like peace or not peace.
Absolutely, absolutely. And if the women and children are supported, because those first 5 years, you know, are so important, and you need to be with this nonverbal being who can't say what they need except for through crying and tantrums, and it's so imperfect, and it's a very stressful process, because you have to use your intuition, and you never can know if you're right or not. It's not like throwing a spear and knowing if you got the polar bear or not. So that's the measurement mind, which is where our economic system is based right now, is in the measurement mind. And it's very useful to know if your spear is going to get the polar bear, so you don't die and you can protect your person who just had a baby. And the process of nurturing a child is that it's not the market economy, it's the gift economy. You don't say that will be $9 for your breastfeeding, and I'm keeping a tab. And every time I nurse you, I'm going to keep tab of how much you owe me. It's not that kind of transaction. And it is a fundamental process of life that is undervalued. And if the process of nurturing the children, the young children, is deeply supported, you need the grandparents, you need the people who help bring in the money. You know, and again, the word economy is about to make home. So if we really made home be less stressful and more supported, there would be more peace. And think about, I know you do, all the people who have been displaced from their homes because of climate change and war. And that's going to be even greater. It's going to increase. So if we made children's being safe and loved the priority of all of our economies, we would have more peace.
Yeah.
And we would
the
have
problem
less people who are so angry, especially young men.
Yeah. The problem really is what I hear you saying is that the productive work is valued so much. You know, just the economy, you know, or the economic gain is valued so much, whereas the reproductive work is undervalued, and that is a huge problem.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's an imbalance.
Yes.
Joshua, I'd love to hear your thoughts about the role of masculinity in creating peace. How you see that sacred masculinity?
Yeah, it's really complicated for me to say it in English, I have to say. Yeah.
Just take a whack, and I'll know that it's 10 times more interesting in German.
Oder du sagst es auf Deutsch und ich versuche es zu übersetzen. Das können wir auch
okay,
versuchen.
ja, okay. Also es geht um die Rolle jetzt sozusagen, was ich zum maskulinen Leadership sagen würde.
Ja.
Ja, also finde ich ganz schwierig, muss ich sagen, jetzt dazu irgendwie was Genaues zu sagen, weil ich mich tatsächlich damit jetzt noch nicht so beschäftigt habe.
Joshua is saying that he finds it quite difficult to say something just out of the cuff about this, because he hasn't really been thinking so much about it beforehand.
Ja.
Aber also ich kann auf jeden Fall schon nachvollziehen, also die Argumente sozusagen auch für ja, sagen wir mal, Feminine Leadership, was da die positiven Aspekte sind und wo man jetzt auch sagen könnte, dass sozusagen, sie hat ja auch gesagt, dass das 50-50 ist sozusagen.
But you can definitely follow what you're saying about female leadership, and he thinks it's interesting that you also said basically that we are 50-50.
Ja. Das war, also fällt mir jetzt ganz schwer erstmal dazu, weil ich mich tatsächlich wirklich, also auch mit dieser Rolle, das ist ja so in der Welt tatsächlich, dass Männer die Welt regieren in dem Sinne, in diesen wichtigen Positionen, aber sozusagen noch nie nähergehend darüber nachgedacht, was das vielleicht auch für den Frieden auf der Welt heißt. Das vielleicht noch so.
Yeah, so although it is in fact like you said, that like everywhere it's male leadership in all the positions, but he actually has never thought about what that means for the peace in the world, and how it might be if there be more female leadership, more focus on the children.
Yeah, thank you. It's very important, you know, to hear your voice and to understand how we support the masculine in a way that is honoring and not dominating. And right now it's dominating our planet. I'm so thrilled that the Prime Minister of New Zealand was re-elected. She nursed her baby in Parliament, and she is like making the well-being of people the first priority in New Zealand. Not the growth of the economy is not the criterion she's using. It's very exciting. And
what I was also just thinking about now, there was one woman, she was Jewish, she's called Hannah Arendt, and she actually went into exile into the US as well, and she wrote a book which is called Vita Activa, and about the active life, and she's basically saying in there that like there's two different in a way kind of border experiences that people have. One is their mortality and one is the nativity, and just to basically see your life from the perspective of that one day you will die, and basically who am I, and there's lots of questions about my identity, but the impulse that comes through nativity is that there's always children being born, and not our own, but in any case, and that makes us think about the future. That makes us think about, how do we actually, I mean, she was so she was not a philosopher, but she was more like into politics and how to basically lead a country, and saying yes, and that gives us the impulse to ask ourselves, what are good politics, you know, or policies. You know, how
Yeah.
do we really want to live together
Yeah.
in this way?
Yes.
What does it mean, you know, for life to go well?
Yes.
And that, I mean, just reminds me so much of it just now of this, what you're saying about female leadership.
Yeah.
You know, to have the children, you know, in focus and get the impulses from that, you know. And like there was a podcast about that, and one of the guys moderating it, he shared about a movie where for some reason in, I mean, it was just a movie, but like in the whole of humanity there were no children anymore. So for some reason everybody became infertile, and so nothing worked, and how quickly society changed, like
Yeah.
what that did to people. So it was just, you know, kind of thinking, you know, kind of, yeah, thinking about that, what might that do to us?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the singing trees I'll share with you is called the blood dragon singing tree to prevent extinction.
Mm-hmm.
And it was envisioned by a 7-year-old girl. And when we created it, we started, the kids started putting little babies on it. And I had never thought, you know, when we began the project, that there would be lots of little babies because I just didn't put that together. But the kids, they totally understood that if you want to prevent extinction, you have to have babies. It's so simple. So here is the mural. And there's a little tiny baby flamingo here, and there's a baby giraffe there. There's a baby, I don't know, I think a baby bear. Um, and it was just so profound and simple to me that the kids understood that you have to have babies if you're going to prevent extinction. And we are, before the Industrial Revolution, we lived in villages, and the children had real work to do that was not oppressive exploitation of child labor. They understood that if you wanted water, you carried water. If you wanted food, you planted potatoes. Um, and the village sang together and danced together and told stories and cared for the children and cared for the elders, and made food, made common clothes and designs that had symbols that were shared, and we long for that village. I think, and the singing tree is a way to support the village.
Yeah.
And
so just also looking at the time, you know, because I wrote in my mail, you know, we took about 30 minutes, so if we're talking for an hour, so
yes,
I just jumped in our questions to page 7. Because some of the other questions, they also overlap, and we've been covering things. So just like to ask you, you know, what some of your most, or one of your most powerful experience has been while working with young people creating a singing tree?
One of the first singing trees I did was in rural Virginia, and there were 1,000 kids in a county of 5,000 people, 7,000 people. And the students, the kids were in homeschool, they were in private school, they were in public school, and they never did anything together except for compete in sports. And in the first singing tree brought together all these different groups. And I remember one person saying about a student who would be called a redneck, which is a white working class family that didn't have much education. And so this other kid said, I never knew he had that in him. I never knew he had that beauty in him. And just recently, students from Kenya contributed to the singing tree of the oak singing tree of the pathway forward. And a researcher, Maureen Porter, who was the one who introduced me to this, the Peace Conference at the she's from the University of Pittsburgh.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
She took pieces to Kenya, and the students there were just so moved when they saw photographs of people looking at their artwork in this country, that was about how they are going to move forward. What is their pathway forward? And their hopes and dreams were glued onto the mural. And that was very moving to them, that that somebody was aware of their existence and enjoying their creativity. And another mural was made in Ukiah, California, around the issues of climate change. I'm going to share this image with you. And out of the mural project came other projects, and the students decided to make get solar panels over top of their parking lot, and to get rid of use the food waste that was from their cafeteria for composting. And the project just helped them organize for more action on their part. So the mural began as just a mural, but then the conversation about how do we make climate solutions led to innovative action. And here's the mural that they created, which is based on Project Drawdown's solutions for climate change, that these are the things that we need to focus on, is having a plant-rich diet and no food waste, and educating girls and supporting boys, and family planning, and solar and wind. And here's solar and wind. And so out of this, this was designed by about 55 students in a biology class, and then 100 or maybe 300 more students added their vision of climate solutions. So those are some of the wonderful things that have happened. And there's video of the process of making this on the website.
It's also very beautiful.
Isn't it amazing?
Yeah, really amazing.
And very teenagery, you know, it has the angst of like, this is what's happening.
Oh no, it's great. Yeah. I think what just touches me is that you know, I think people or children, youth, anybody, you know, become creative when they feel safe, and that you, I mean, like you manage to make them feel safe as a group as well.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes I fail, but I keep trying.
And that they feel safe with each other, and that is, you know, not such an easy task, because
No.
if there are youth and children together, you know, they can be very honest and direct and
Yeah.
hurtful sometimes, and you manage to, yeah, build a community, and that is really special. Yeah. So you know, if we change gear a little bit and just think about, you know, because we want to draw up or design like a a seminar for master students and for peace education or conflict transformation. So we still have some questions about kind of, peace building and social work. So maybe we close with those. Is that okay?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So what in your view, what role do social workers play in peace education or conflict transformation? Or what role could they play?
Well, social workers are leaders, and they are deep listeners, and they are always trying to understand what needs are and to work with people, not just for people, to empower them to get our needs met. And if social workers have a view that we began this conversation about of superiority and separation, it will be disastrous, as it has been for so long. And if they have the concept of one family, and I am meeting my needs of being of service by being here. Thank you for helping me meet my need to be of service. And what is your need that I can help you with? Then they have very powerful work to be peace leaders. It's the depth of the respect for every soul that they come in contact with. And again, it's a challenge. I think that I am expressing respect, and at times that have been very deeply offensive to people. So it's not like this is easy.
No. But just being aware of it, being conscious of it, that it is core, that it's so important.
Yeah.
And always, it's a process. It's always an adjusting again and trying again. It's falling and getting up again, and yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and if we were to invite you for our seminar series, and you were doing a slot of teaching, what would you like to convey to the students, theoretically, methodologically, or drawing on your experience? But I think we've covered a lot, because you probably, what you said to us, you would say to them, wouldn't you, about the earth hanging in space and about being one, and
we would make
leadership.
we would make an image together.
Yes.
It's not enough to talk.
Yeah.
Here's the image that I'm working on for the olive singing tree of health.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
And here's my month-old grandson and my 3-year-old grandson, and it says, "We are in this." I was going to write, "We are in this together," but I didn't have room. And so we're in this, right? And it's heartbreaking. This time that we are in is heartbreaking on so many levels. And we have to get big enough to keep holding that immense heartbreak with immense love and just keep getting bigger. So the use of imagery and the use of story is so very important. And I'm going to write down another wonderful set of young adult novels called the Ari Ara series by Rivera's son. And they're like Harry Potter, only the magic is nonviolence. And she's helping to make a culture of nonviolence through story. And the stories are filled with conflict and the struggle of an 11-year-old orphan girl who is very feisty but hates war because war causes more orphans to be created. And so in your course, I would just support people reading stories. And I want to tell you about one other resource. It's called The Outside Circle. I think Patty Labosine or something, that's not her last name. But this is her PhD dissertation, and it's a graphic novel. And it's a graphic novel about historical trauma. And a Native American young man in Canada who gets involved with the thug drug culture to support himself kills his mother's lover who's beating her up and goes to prison and meets a Native healing process that involves him learning about the historical trauma of his family. And the woman, Patty, who wrote it, is now authorized by the Canadian government to run a prison. So in addition to making your paper, your beautiful paper in German, maybe there's another form you can put it in that's 3-minute video or something very visual, something that gets it. You know, there are people on Instagram who have like 500 million followers, and their content is usually shit. It's usually like, you know, nothing. And so if we can get our content spread, I just want to say what you're doing is so important. And just to infuse your creativity and let creator work through you to see what form you can give it to many people. And starting off in an academic setting is fabulous. And it's not big enough, right? We need bigger. So go
Yes,
big. I'm telling you.
Yes. I feel really inspired, also because of this talk, to do something creative with the students.
Yeah.
Yes, I think it's a really good idea, and I hope we can do this.
Yes, and and if you'd like to use the structure of the singing tree and would like my help, I would love to support you with that too.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So can you do you know who was the author of this graphic novel?
It's
Do you
if
know?
you look up The Outside Circle, it's I can find it for you. Hold on one second.
No, I'm sorry. Also, The Outside Circle. I think then I'll find it.
If you save the chat too, you'll have all this, and I'll save the chat.
Yeah.
And can send this to you. Yeah. So she teamed up with an artist, and now is the time to team up with people. You know, team up with the creative. Every class has so much creativity in it, and you know, asking your students to make 3-minute videos about the very first question you asked me, which is, what is peace? You know, you will get incredible responses, and then you'll have people be thinking about it. So.
Yeah. Thank you. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's
well,
really
thank
great.
you for your time.
Well, thank you for your time.
Yes, thank you for your time.
And I'll send you a copy of the link to this. And if it's okay, may I share this conversation on my website?
Yes, you can.
Yeah. Is that okay? Okay.
Great.
Well, blessings,
Thank you so
peace
much.
leaders. Yes, let's stay in touch.
Stay in touch. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah.
Bye.
Wonderful. Bye bye,
Bye
Lori.
bye.
Bye bye.
Thanks a lot. Bye bye.
Uh-huh.